A brand new enterprise backed by £100 million, aiming swiftly for 10% of the market. Well, there aren't too many of those in Britain in these days of depressed industry. But that's what we'll be seeing on Tuesday, when at last the fourth button on our television sets will reveal the second ITV channel. Certainly Jeremy Isaacs, the man who's running Channel 4, has been heard to say that he can't quite get over his good fortune in being able to launch his new venture in the midst of recession. But he surely knows full well that no matter how adventurous he would like the new channel to be, it's emerging into a cold commercial world. Mark Rogerson now reports on the business of Channel 4.
This is Channel 4, the new national television service broadcasting through the transmitters of the independent broadcast.
Wednesday's Film on 4 series includes First Love.
Channel 4, you can hardly have failed to notice, is almost upon us. From Tuesday, all but 13% of the population will get their first new television channel since BBC Two, 18 years ago.
With something for everyone.
The final preparations are underway, despite two serious industrial disputes, and it'll all start at 4:45 in the afternoon, with a quiz show. The new channel operates differently from the existing ITV companies and the BBC. They produce many of their own programmes in their own studios. Channel 4 will have virtually no studios at all. Instead, it'll buy in its programmes, either from the other companies or from independent filmmakers, an important new source of material. There shouldn't be a great deal of doubt in anybody's mind about what Channel 4 is going to look like, because it's all been set out in the Broadcasting Act 1980. Channel 4, it says, must appeal to tastes and interests not generally catered for by ITV. It must contain a suitable proportion of educational programmes, and it must encourage innovation and experiment. In short, says the Act, Channel 4 must have a distinctive character all of its own. To the dismay of some advertisers, it wants to show types of programmes that haven't been able to get on in the past. And it's providing a bonanza for the independent filmmakers in the process.
We're filming for Dancerama, which is a 6-part series commissioned from television partners by Channel 4 for showing in the UK network in February. It's 6 45-minute programmes, each of which shows Indian, Asian, Caribbean, African dance, as it's performed now in the UK and in the USA.
How the audience will react remains to be seen, but the hard fact is that specialist programmes like this and the rest of the output must eventually pull in an audience of about 10% if Channel 4 is to pay its way. There's bound to be an initial honeymoon period when viewers tune in out of sheer curiosity. But after that, Channel 4 doesn't expect overnight success. In their wildest dreams, the channel bosses see a 12% audience share in 3 years, the same as BBC Two. As a reasonable target, they're aiming for 10% by then. While their nightmares are pitched much lower, and if their gloomy scenario of 3 to 4% in the first year came about, the advertisers might turn nasty.
I think that the programmes are not really commercial enough, if I can put it that way, and I don't think they're going to attract the sort of audiences that we would have liked. There will be some, of course, that will, but we'd like, I think, to see a few more popular programmes attracting bigger audiences.
Are you saying that the Channel 4 schedule is boring?
Yes. At the moment, it's not only boring, it's, as I say, using the word uncommercial, not very attractive to an advertiser.
You'd hardly expect a new TV channel to slip easily into the world without a murmur, but it is proving a worrying birth. And the problems, though Channel 4 might not use that word, stem in many ways from the type of organisation that it is. In fact, it's the existing ITV companies who are providing the money for the new boy, like some of the programmes. They'll each pay a subscription, based on their size, to the Independent Broadcasting Authority. The IBA will hand over the cash, around £100 million a year, to Channel 4. It'll then be left to the companies to recover their money by selling the advertising not only for ITV1 in their regions, but also for Channel 4 as well, and keeping the revenue from both. But there's one important result of the particular way Channel 4 is funded. getting its money direct from the ITV companies and then leaving it to the companies to farm back the revenue through their commercials. As well as pleasing the IBA and the viewers, Channel 4 has to keep the advertisers sweet as well.
Stand by rehearsal. Very quiet in the studio. Okay. Very, very quiet. Here we go. And action, John T. 1, take 11.
And action. Kentucky Fried Chicken are doing an amazing new deal.
Colonel Sanders intends this message for ITV1, though advertisers may eventually run the same commercials on both channels. But that begged the very question that's worrying the product promoters. What sort of audience will they get? Will it want fried chicken pieces or coq au vin? And on top of that, they're suspicious of the very different way the channel is going about attracting an audience in the first place. The jargon word is horizontal. The Channel 4 idea is that people will look across the week, horizontally, with similar programmes at similar times of night, rather than thinking vertically down the evening. So, there's a strand of mid-evening news and comment, and a number of late-evening films. Education tends to come early, with comedy to sugar the pill. There's not much sport, but a variety of special interest programmes, for young viewers, for ethnic minorities, from a woman's point of view. And it's here that the new channel's strengths or weaknesses must lie.
Viewers, in my experience, tend to look at an evening of television vertically, so to speak, starting at some point early in the evening until and staying with the channel until some point later on. That's going to be a little bit difficult to do with the Channel 4 schedule as it's presently structured. There's a lot of discontinuity in it. And whether viewers will remember that the programs are there and switch across at the right time and then switch out again when they're finished is the big question. It'll be fascinating to see.
Looking at the content of the programmes, and one advertising man described them to us as obscure.
Well, there is a danger that some of them at least will be what we used to call them talking to them. I think television is an us business. It's we and us, and at your peril do you forget that.
It's not that they're a load of rubbish, but there are some terrible holes, I think. We were not exactly sold down the river, but we were told very clearly that there were going to be programmes which were much more selective in their nature. I'm not sure that that's really happened. When I think of some of the programmes that I would have liked to see, programmes on gardening, programmes on motoring, leisure activities of one kind or another, holidays maybe, all of those, and antiques, chess, and more sport. There's very little sport indeed on Channel 4. It doesn't seem that they've got the sort of programmes where I could take some of my clients' money out of print because it's specialised and transfer it onto Channel 4. So they're disappointing in that area in particular.
The ad men have reason to knock the channel to force the cost of advertising down. But Horsley reckons it could be £30 million short in a year, money that would come from the ITV company's pockets. And starved of cash, they could demand more popular programmes. Already there are persistent reports of low sales of commercial time. But so far, the companies are putting a brave face on it.
It may be boring to a number of big advertisers with big brands aimed at just housewives with, if you like, predominant purchasing over the age of 55. But if you're a manufacturer trying to reach young people, a category of the audience that it's difficult to reach, not just on television, but in any other media, I think the channel has got real possibilities, and indeed, in the way that we're selling, we find that it's that sort of advertiser that is buying the channel.
So how do you see the advertising developing? Is it going to be a question of, as it were, poaching existing advertising from somewhere else, or is it going to generate brand new advertising?
As a generalisation, a new medium generates new money. What we can't afford in ITV is, if you like, a seepage situation where all that we're taking is money that we were already getting on ITV.
Do you think Channel 4 is going to generate the revenue to pay for itself?
Inevitably, and eventually, it's got to. But it'll take a little time, like the audience, it'll take a little time to build up. The same happened, if you think back, to the very early days of ITV. It took a long time before ITV paid its way, if you remember. From 1955 to 1957, a lot of the major companies lost a great deal of money. And it wasn't until 57, 58 that advertisers really discovered how effective the medium was.
Because at the time when it's, as it were, not paying for itself, then broadly speaking, the companies are going to have to dip deeper into their own pockets, aren't they?
Yes, indeed they are. Yes, yes, which of course is worrying. It causes a certain amount of apprehension.
If Channel 4 doesn't start building an audience fairly quickly, do you think the companies are going to lose patience?
No, I don't think they will. They're a very patient lot.
I think they'll change because of the financial pressures that we put on them by the contractors to become more popular and therefore attract more revenue. And I think there will be pressures of the sheer competitiveness of the publishers at Channel 4 wanting to also achieve high ratings.
It may seem contradictory, but from the BBC's point of view, a poor start for Channel 4 could do more harm than good. It's generally accepted that if the existing ITV companies do start to play the heavy-handed parent, the pressure will be for Channel 4 to become more commercial, more like existing output. And that would give the BBC two versions of ITV1 to fight against, quite apart from a more limited range of choice for viewers. Jeremy Isaacs, however, is adamant. He's not going to be pushed down that path.
It won't become more like ITV1. I mean, the fact is there is an Act of Parliament which sets us specific, important qualitative objectives. It asks us specifically to be different from ITV, to be distinctive if we can. That's what we're here to do, and that's what we're going to do. And although it would be very nice to get the share of audience and pool for ITV the additional advertising revenue that all of us would like to pull and they would like to have, the fact is that far more important than that is fulfilling our qualitative objectives. And what we're not going to do is abandon those and run for cover. I think that we can achieve our objectives, and I think that by achieving our objectives, we can also pay our way.
Jeremy Isaacs' managing director is Justin Dukes, formerly of the Financial Times. How does he resolve the conflict between programming and paying his way?
The question of the performance and the standing of the programs themselves on artistic and other grounds must be a very material consideration, and we will never lose sight of that. Having said that, £100 million is approximately 14% of the total industry revenues which the industry would expect to obtain over two channels in the year ahead. And I don't think that is an unreasonable consumption of funds, nor an unreasonable expectation in due course from a second channel, bearing in mind that we are talking about the second commercial channel covering the whole country virtually, not the 22nd channel.
If the channel doesn't generate enough revenue, it won't just be the other ITV companies who feel the pinch. Since their profits are taxed by a levy, it means that ultimately the Treasury and the taxpayer will be footing the bill if viewers don't press button 4 and the money doesn't come in. It's unlikely the Chancellor would rewrite the schedules personally, but it underlines the pressures on Channel 4 to get people watching. And it's not being helped by two industrial disputes, either one of which could seriously affect its long-term prospects. One concerns the television signal itself. The Technicians' Union, ACTT, want it routed through the existing ITV network, giving the union more industrial leverage. Channel 4 wants to control its own signal. The dispute is simmering at the moment. If it boils over, it could take some or all of the programmes off the air. The other dispute is going on here, at the headquarters of the Actors' Union, Equity. And it centres around how much money actors should get for appearing in the commercials on the new channel. At present, they're paid according to the number of times a commercial is shown. Now, the advertisers want fees linked to the size of the audience, which will obviously be lower on Channel 4. Negotiations have broken down, to the great concern of the advertising agencies.
The channel will be forced to launch with very, very few commercials indeed. And continuing development there will be that many advertisers are now looking at their plans for the whole first quarter of 1983. And until they can be reassured that this equity problem is finally resolved, they will not be building into those plans provision for the use of Channel 4 to anything like the degree that might otherwise have been the case.
Channel 4 are going to some lengths to cover the cracks. There'll be a lot of public information films and programme trailers in the commercial breaks. But that can't go on forever. Jeremy Isaac's brave new venture is being born into a cold world.